Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lethal Sales. We're so happy you're here, Larry, Peter, and I. Tonight's topic is all about books. We'd like to know what you're reading, what you recommend we read, and what you've read recently that you really like. And I'm going to start because I'm obviously losing my voice and I won't be able to talk too much longer. Larry's making me read this Andy Elliott book.
Ew, really?
And you know what, Larry? This is going to
Why?
cost you.
The
So it's all
because
about,
I'm well, no, he asked the question because it defies my imagination how a guy who's a bully and an over the top can be successful. And rather than just shut my eyes, I like to know as much about what's going on as possible. But not my for public consumption, not my favorite guy, not my favorite style in any way, shape, or form, Jason.
you know,
But
uh,
ignorance is not bliss. You need to know what the hell people are doing.
Hey,
so I'm more than
we
halfway
elected a
through this.
felon. She can read a felon.
I'm more than halfway through this book, and every page is an objection and how he'd answer it. So he writes an objection at the top, and then he says, "I understand," and then he proceeds to absolutely not understand and tell people exactly what he needs to tell them to make the sale. If everybody did this, that you forget seven cars a day, Jason. I mean, it would be one person selling 7 cars a day because there's like no relationship building here, none.
I didn't. I bought the book and gave it to you. I didn't read it. At any point when somebody asks him a question, does he say, "I understand. I'm from a middle class family"?
No, but
Oh
you
my
know what? That
God.
would I'm not at the end of the objections.
I have a
Anyway,
nice
I
lawn.
don't recommend the book.
I love it.
I have a nice lawn. The grass is really cut well.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
No, would that be the book of Deadly Strips by Andy Elliott?
It's in there. At first there's the objections and then there's the book of deadly scripts. I didn't get up to that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that gentleman sent me that book as well, hoping to guide me into his pastime. Well, I'm going to start off with book number one.
Oh, all right.
It's written by a short Jewish guy that I know.
He's
Inner
Oh,
not paying
Moron
attention.
Demons. I see it populating up on the screen everywhere. Uh, Great, absolute great book. Know the author. He's a real amazing guy.
Jeff
But I'm going to show
Scherer.
you the very first book that I read in the automobile industry. Customers for Life
Mm,
by Carl Sewell.
It's a hell of
yeah.
a book.
This is the most impactful book in my life in automobiles. It was absolutely incredible. Carl Sewell is an icon. He is absolutely 100% spot on how to become successful in this business. It's all about relationships. I'm going to show you. Next one is a book called WTF, Work the Facts.
what the fix stuff? I love it,
Close. Pretty close. Jason Rice wrote this one. Jason Rice owns a company named Lot Pop. And in this, it talks about how to operate a pre-owned department at a level that has never been seen before.
man.
It is absolutely a must read if you're in variable operations in a dealership. Then you go to a couple other ones. This one, American Icon. The story of
Is that
how
about a Corvette or what is that about?
no, it's how Alan Mulally turned Ford around in the 2008 crisis, and how he was the only manufacturer that didn't take any money from the government, and how they did it, and how they survived the crisis and came out stronger than ever. Now that's not the case because one of the children that he brought in during this crisis, Jim Farley, is putting the company in jeopardy.
Because of
Yeah,
EVs.
yeah. Now, the next two are really, really important books. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It's how to actually take ownership of teams from the SEALs, and it is absolutely incredible. And the last one I'm going to talk about before I tail off on the very last book is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, the best negotiation book out there. One of the things I remember about this book is that he wanted to become a hostage negotiator.
Mhm.
And he went to his boss at the FBI and said, I want to become a hostage negotiator. And the boss turned around and said, are you crazy? You're not qualified. And he said, well, how do I get qualified? And he said, I want you to volunteer at the suicide hotline for a year. And you will learn to listen to people. And you will figure out ways to save people. Unbelievable. It touches on business, it touches on relationships, it touches on everything. But the last two books that I want to talk about, and a number of us on this call are entrepreneurs. And one of the things is that we look at running our businesses in a very unique manner. And typically, we're chasing the almighty dollar at a lot of the times. And sometimes we're highly successful. And then other times it's back to chasing the almighty dollar and everything else. This book here called Profit First is how to set up your business so that you don't chase money and that you can actually make the right decisions that are going to be impactful for you to be successful in your business.
Who wrote that book?
That is by Mike Michalowski. Michalowicz. Now, the one book that I don't have in front of me that it's upstairs in my wife's office, and I dare not to go get it because if I went to get it, I would get the "Why haven't you reread this?" Speech, and that is a book called Loon Shots, and it's probably one of the most entertaining books out there in this realm of nonfiction books. It's by Safi Bahcall. So it's Safibahcall. It's called Loon Shots. And basically, it's how to understand that the craziest of crazy ideas can be accomplished if you set your mind to it. And it was everything from the New York subway system to actually flying across the Pacific Ocean and how they came to understand how to get across the Pacific Ocean in an airplane that could only fly a third of the way across. How did they get across? How did they figure it out? And all these things are in this book, and it's absolutely amazing when you actually read on how things were accomplished. And they weren't moonshots, they were way beyond that, and it's absolutely incredible. One last book I'm going to add in: Change Your Questions, Change Your Life by Mary Lee Adams. Absolutely phenomenal book if you want to actually build a team. And it's all about asking questions. It's not about finding solutions. And it's called Question Storming. And if you get a bunch of people in a boardroom and you say, okay, I want to hear every single question that you can think of on a single topic, you will find all the solutions within the questions. But you don't ask for the solutions. You will find them. They will come up and you will see them. So those are the books that I have. I got like Russell, I have books coming out left, right, and center, from workflows to work groups to performance habits, you name it, they're all in there. But those ones are truly the most impactful for me. Now, Larry would probably be half albums and half books in his library, if you ask me. I've never seen it, but I could imagine it. So what do you say, Larry?
Well, I'll emulate you as far as multiple books. First of all, the book that I just finished was by Bill Bryson, very fine author, called
I
One
thought it was.
Summer.
I grew up in it. I thought it was. I grew up in a middle class neighborhood.
Yeah. Now that stuff is in my rearview mirror.
That's
Bryson,
fiction. That's not
There you go.
nonfiction.
yeah. Bill Bryson has wrote a lot of books, and he wrote a book called One Summer America, 1927. I love history, and this book was incredible. Um, I found out so many things that I didn't know about, believe it or not, the Yankees, and I'm a baseball fan, and Charles Lindbergh, and Prohibition, and just so many things that just happened in that summer that shaped everything. Really, really good book. I think the books that I have found the most influential, if I had to narrow it down to four, like you did, Peter, my all-time favorite book is Truman by David McCullough. McCullough is my favorite historical author. He passed away last year. Beyond brilliant. You've all heard his voice if you ever listen to a Ken Burns documentary. He won the Pulitzer for Truman. Man, bestsellers with 1776. The John Adams thing that you might have seen on HBO, that was derived from his book. Truman is my favorite president. I think he's the last honest president we'll ever have, because he didn't want the job. He was thrust into it by the people backing Roosevelt, not figured Roosevelt would die. I think another book that's just bears incredible fruit. Don't laugh, is the Bible. It's astonishing how many things have been derived from that. How many books, how many theories, how many concepts. Just an amazing book. If you're going in modern culture, again, don't laugh. I think the most influential book in modern culture is The Godfather. I mean, two guys can't have a conversation for more than an hour without pulling out one of the concepts or one of the phrases. Heck, this morning I quoted, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But I got to admit, my all-time favorite book to this day remains The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Another one that has indoctrinated itself into places you don't even know. People quote it or misquote it all the time. But man, what a compelling story. It never gets old. And I've read and reread those books many, many times, and they're just incredible. I got to tell you, I don't know how you all feel. I bet you it's all the same. I wonder how I run into people that tell me they don't like to read. I can't even grasp that as a thought or a concept. I get so much out of reading. I just can't imagine somebody not enjoying it or getting out of it what I get out of it.
Larry, here's a little known stat. The average CEO in America reads 50 nonfiction books a year. The average book is about 200 pages. That's 25 pages a night, every single night or every single morning, or whenever they choose to absorb that information. But that's what they do. And a good friend of mine up here runs a superstore. It's been named the best superstore for the last 5 years in a row for Canada. Every night he gets in his car and it's 25 minutes for him to drive home. So 25 minutes to go home, 25 minutes.
Audiobook.
He listens to an audiobook every single time he's in the car. Nothing else.
Yeah,
Audiobook.
Me too. Well, I still love to read them, feel the paper in my hands. I'm old fashioned, but yeah, I'm an audiobook freak.
There's the smell of books, right? It's like vinyl records, man. You go in the record store and you're like,
nothing like it,
right?
It's like, I know that there's everybody that's 20 or younger thinks I'm insane because I like newspapers. I just like the feel of them. I just like to unwrap them,
Like getting the ink all over your fingertips and stuff.
Well, that's true too. I tend to lean on the messy side, so that's no surprise.
No, all the magazines now have digital editions, but it's just not the same, man.
Hey.
It's like, I want to read one article, put it down, pick it up tomorrow night.
If
You know?
if you're talking music, think of how cool it was when we saw the cover of Sergeant Pepper or Sticky Fingers with the zipper. I mean, this is stuff that affected us. We were drawn into it in a way different than the music, but it made the music more compelling.
Mhm.
Oh, we used to read the album covers, man. Come
Mhm.
on,
That's right.
right? You know, there was intrigue in that, and we looked forward when we got the new copy. You know, I don't know if books are the same, but and I didn't mean to jump in next, but I will, but that's okay.
Please, please.
So I like reading. Well, first of all, I got that Moron Demons book next to my bed, so that's on my nightstand. But I'm reading The Theory of Five by Chris Saraceno.
Oh, sure. Chris is a good guy. Kelly
Yeah.
Auto Group.
Yeah, he's been around a while, and this is just really kind of combines family and business and personal success, and it's really interesting. He kind of outlines 5 mentors that he's had, which is a subject we've talked about. And another book I just started by Max Lucado, who's one of my favorite spiritual writers, because he's got such a humorous and understandable
Hey, Jeff.
way
Jeff,
of reading. Yeah.
just before you continue, I know Tony's walking into his meeting. Can we just defer just so Tony can
Yeah.
pipe up? Go ahead,
So-
Tony. If you can hear me.
I think he's being chased by the cops.
He's on mute.
Can you hear me, Tony?
Tony, you're muted.
He can hear us.
Unmute.
See,
No,
now-
I think he's going in to read the good book.
See, now if you had said, Tommy, can you hear me? It would have made Jeff Scherer happy, because then we could have flipped back to the album cover for Tommy by the Who. I'm just trying to cross pollinate everything.
I
Hi,
am.
Tony.
He's still muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you can't unmute and walk at the same time. It's like chewing gum.
Yeah, give me a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Please, just whenever you're ready, jump in and we'll move in a different direction. Go ahead, Jeff, till we hear from our friend Tony.
So I am the owner of 2,200 vinyl albums, which are primarily stacked in boxes in my storage in my basement, and about 1,200 CDs, because I fought that as long as I could when I was in the business. CDs don't sound the same, man.
No.
But the convenience outweighed the maybe the little warmth of vinyl. But this book is really cool. It's about, the end of the age, and it clears up a lot of points on, in my case, and that what I really firmly believe, when we die, we're not dead. And Tony can echo me on this maybe, but it's another transition into something that's a million times longer than this life on the blue planet here.
Yep. Absent from the body, face to face with the Lord. Love it.
right on.
That's all I got.
Go ahead, Tony.
Tony?
If you got a couple books other than the good book, fire away.
Who?
It turns out all other books are about the book. If you listen and read just about every other book, they're all about the book that most people won't take the time to read. As Larry said, the Bible. And Larry, I'm actually surprised one of your favorite books is not the Pentateuch, knowing who you are and your heritage. But right now I'm working on Simon Sinek's book, Begin with Why or Start with Why. Pretty good book. Another great book, if you haven't had a chance to read it, is written by a man many of you have heard of or maybe even know, Dave Anderson.
Oh, sure.
You familiar with Dave?
Yeah.
Been around forever. I remember reading. I remember 25 years ago reading his articles in the various magazines, the F&I and the car magazines. Always a sharp guy.
Yeah, he wrote a really great book. It's called Business by the Book. and it's essentially how to run your business according to biblical principles. So if you have a chance, pick that one up. It's a really good book. And then two last books, and I know you all are familiar with this gentleman, a gentleman by the name of Og Mandino.
Oh,
Greatest salesman in the world.
Yeah, greatest salesman in the world. And the other one is The Richest Man in Babylon.
Oh yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah. And if you get the book, Greatest Salesman in the World, and follow what it tells you to do, right? Not just read the book, but follow the instructions, which is essentially read it every day for
30 days.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it for years, but
Yeah.
I did it every day for a year, and just circled back. So really, really great books. And then one last one comes to mind that we all know and love, and it's
Sorry.
What do you like?
So I'm sorry, Jeff put in the chat.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Jeff's a comedian.
Yep.
You know what, Peter? You're linking to Amazon Canada. No, thank you.
Hey, how am I supposed
Sorry,
to
Tony.
Yeah, no. And the last one, and I'm sorry, I'm scrambling around here tonight. Julia's got a business meeting here at the dealership, and she's got a large group of people coming. And so the next one is Napoleon Hill, of course, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've done in that book, there's the self-confidence formula. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So you can go on Etsy and you can get a copy of the self-confidence formula. And one of the strategies is you read it to yourself out loud in front of the mirror every day. Now he says for 30 days, but I did it for a year again. And so it's a real practical thing you can do. Just hang it on the mirror in your bedroom or in your bathroom. I had it on one of these little binder clips hanging on the mirror, and every morning you just grab it off the mirror and you just look in the mirror and you read it out loud to yourself. So a really great practical thing to do. Napoleon Hill self-confidence formula. I strongly encourage you to check it out. So those are my books, my good books, the one I'm working on right now, Simon Sinek's book. But yeah, thanks for asking.
One of the things, Tony, and I don't know if it's in the book you're reading, but I remember in the Napoleon Hill book that I read, and it talked about like unlearning things. And I don't know if it was just bad habits, but it was like unlearning limitations or something like that.
Yeah. It all has to do with what Tony was just referring to, saying stuff out loud and belief and etc. Absolutely.
Yeah, the self-talk that we have going on in our heads can be defeating, right? It turns out we have a sinful nature. We wake up in the morning and we're not a naturally positive, if you think about it, I know my personal experiences, I have to strive to be positive. It's not easy, right?
No.
The world's fighting against you. And so is, the other guy that nobody ever wants to meet, constantly telling you, you're not the person you should be. You're not the person you could be. You're the worst person on the planet. So in order to switch that, you have to.
Well, wait a minute, Tone. I'm confused. Are you talking about the devil or a used car manager? Because I see similar traits with both of them.
Yeah, both and believe it or not, I was a used car manager, so I resemble that remark, right? But it just you have to do the practical stuff, and so reading through the books we're talking about is fantastic. But pull one or two things out of those books that you can practically do every day, such as reading the self-confidence formula by Napoleon Hill out loud. Look yourself in the eye, look yourself in the mirror, and get her done.
Tony, think of the parallel. You said you read it every day for a year. Russell loves to tell the story, the guy that pulled him away from the brink by saying you have to read 15 minutes a day. What's interesting in our world, we think being spontaneous, and crazy, and energetic is what gets you ahead. And we all know it's more being consistent, being able to do what you do at a consistent level for a long period of time. Every one of us has seen somebody at a dealership. Oh my God, it's spectacular. 2 weeks later, they're gone, or they flamed out, or they stole something. The key is to be able to do what you do on a consistent basis and take pride in the fact that you were professional. You know, they used to laugh at me when I got to my dealership. Oh, the professional made fun of me. I thought, what kind of moron would beat somebody up? Because I always wanted my paperwork to be right. I wanted the things that I touched to be right. That shouldn't be something to be ashamed of. But in a society where we live in now, where you hear expressions like, yeah, it is what it is, close enough, makes no sense. Consistency is the key. Like I said, it's not as sexy as being crazy out there, but if
Yep.
you're not consistent, everything else goes by the wayside.
Yeah. And moreover, it's not one big thing that's going to lead to your success other than one thing. And I'll tell you what it is in just a second. It's all the little things you do every day consistently that lead to your success. The only one big thing you can do every single day that leads to your success is get your feet on the floor and get up. That's the only thing, only major thing. Everything else is the consistency of all the little things each and every day. And that builds on it and builds on it. Mike Larkin knows this on his 1% better every day. So, let your feet hit the ground and then do all the little things every single day. Get up early, go to bed late, work hard in between. No problem.
Perfect transition, Tony. How about Mr. Larkin? What are you reading? What has influenced you the most, Mike?
Well, the first one was back in my 20s. Somebody suggested that I read 7 Habits of Highly Successful
Stephen Covey,
People.
absolutely.
Stephen Covey. And I always sometimes go back to
Phenomenal.
the chart or the map that he drew out for everybody, which shows the circles, the inner circle.
Wait a minute,
then,
Mike, how crazy is it that people still haven't grasped, a lot of people start with the end in mind?
That's
That how many people seem to have no focus? They're what are you doing? Where are you going? What do you hope to achieve doing what you're doing? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mike. But that everything he said was great, but that really stuck with me.
Of course. This summer I read for the 3rd time, and this time I'm studying it and taking out the exercises of Think and Grow Rich. It's no longer, hey, I read it, pat in the back, or I read it for enjoyment. He was a real smart guy. I read it and I studied it. Another one was, as Tony mentioned, Simon Sinek, in my eyes, is the great thinker of our time. He describes him. Somebody asked, what do you do, or what do you consider yourself? He's like, I'm an optimist. This is what I do, but I'm not labeled by, what I call myself. I'm an optimist. And Why is a great book. I'm now on my 2nd book by him, Leaders Eat Last, and why some teams put together or why some teams pull together and others don't. And I love the stories that he's coming up with because they're real stories. He talks about Jack Welch and GE, and the carrot and the stick don't work. Nowadays, it's, and he did mention the CEO from Cisco, and he tends to like a safe community. Those are the 3 insights: is a safe organization. Let the world be against us, or go to crap. We're safe inside this organization. So that's the first insight. The second insight was the 4 chemicals that are naturally occurring in the body and how to get them to make each and every person act and behave their best. And then the difference between the short and the long-term leadership. And he put some stories to that as well. But he's again a great thinker of our time because he does a different perspective on looking at things. And I guess that's what the way I look at it is it's not the status quo. And in the business that I'm in, things change every single week. And for my eyes, it's getting better and better and better and more incredibly better. So I
Michael,
like to follow those
to,
guys. Yeah.
Mike, I always like to quote my hero, Ben Franklin, who said, when you're finished changing, you're finished. Hey, would you guys mind if we jump to Jason Reed? He's kind of in a hurry. He's got to get that suit back to the Undertaker.
I have a couple of books that I read kind of constantly and always go back to them. One of them is Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. I've been a fan of his books and that book ever since I went to his Unleash the Power event and learned a lot about myself and had a fun time. I did just finish and will be re-listening again to Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. And when you talk about a book, I mean, that is an amazing book. I am also 1 hour left in the audiobook of Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And I have just started his Unreasonable Hospitality book.
There you go.
Which is a really good book. It's just all about relationship building and treating people with the right respect. And I am slowly getting through, and I say slowly because I've been trying to get this book for a while, and it's my own fault for not doing it. But also, thank you for Larry for mentioning the book. But Carl Soule's Customers for Life is another book that I'm getting into. But I'm not going to say that it's redundant, but I do a lot of the things already and treat people with certain respects and I just feel like I do a lot of the things in that book anyway already. So I'm not saying I'm bored by it or I get bored with it, but there's a lot of stuff I do that I already see. So it's just like retooling the cabinet, I guess you could say, is what's going on with me with that book. But
Jason,
yes,
on that note, do you wax your car?
Yes.
So that's exactly what
it's just exactly what's going on. It's just like I've been it's constantly going back to it. And, every time I reread something or re-listen to an audiobook, I always try to retake away something from that book or that experience that I had with that event or that audiobook or listening to that speech, that podcast or whatnot. And because I'm going to miss something. Something's going to happen. Something's going to distract me. And I like to do things multiple times with these books so I can really dive in and pick them out. And that's why I want to get back into the Chris Voss's book. I mean, that book is holy cow good. So if anybody hasn't read that, I encourage you to do so. And Simon Sinek's Why is a beautiful book. Really, really like that book as well. So I'm having a good time with these, and I do listen to the audiobooks on my hour drives home when I'm not in the middle of listening to Clubhouse late night Clubhouse after dark. So
excellent. Hey, we got Fred and Wendy. Before we jump to Wendy, Fred, any specific book you've read that influenced you or pushed you in a different direction?
I don't read that much. Yeah, I read the Bible every night, listen to it. I had audio on them. As he's speaking, I'm reading through there. And then listen to Jeff there about Max. Or Jeff, you ever heard of Louis Giglio?
Jeff?
I actually met him.
Did you really?
Yeah.
At a conference or something?
Yeah. Excellent.
So you've seen that How Great Is Your God?
Mm-hmm.
That's phenomenal, isn't it?
There, again, a lot of it emanates from the book, like Tony said and Larry said. It's in.
Yeah. It's cool.
Wendy?
Read some books, because it's like, when do I have time? When do you guys have time to read?
You make time.
I mean, I don't have much time to read. Don't seem like. I guess you make it.
You know what,
The book's
Fred?
interesting. I'll sit down and
Fred,
read
I think everybody will agree. Life is all about priorities, and if you prioritize reading, I truthfully, when I started to fly a lot, travel a lot, that's when I really jumped into the audiobooks because I could be on a plane, I could be in a car, I could be in places that made sense. But I think I can tell the way your eyes lit up when you talk about reading the Bible. You just derive so much pleasure and get so much insight. And the interesting thing is what Jason said, when you go back and read something a little later or a few years later, it's amazing how it has a different impact because your life influences have changed. And what meant something to you at one point doesn't mean the same thing, or it has an added meaning or a deeper meaning or a different meaning.
It's true.
Absolutely.
Okay, on to Wendy.
Wendy, what do you got, Wendy?
Mute.
And Tony went from Miss Madison, Wisconsin to looks like somewhere in New Mexico.
I think Wendy's adjusting her sound, her headphones, and everything else. Can you hear us, Wen? No.
She answered you, but she couldn't hear you.
You did see that, right, Russell?
Yeah.
I asked her if she could hear me. She said no, she couldn't hear me, but she obviously responded with a double negative. This is why Fred has white hair and he's only 24 years old.
I'm always
Really?
struggling
Got
with
that
that.
right.
that mystery. Let's see
You
if
can
she
hear
heard
you
that. I
now.
bet you that'll wake her up.
Can you hear me now? I didn't hear anything. Can you hear
I
me
knew
now?
that would get you
I truly
back on.
didn't. No, guys, I start at like 4 a.m. So like by this time of day, all my devices are the batteries are dying. So I have like 5 around me, seriously, and I switch off all day. Anyway, so I don't know if it's patience. When I read, I like to have, it used to be like mystery in this. In my adult life, I like discovery. When I make the time to read, I want to learn something. I want to discover and be able to enrich myself, my beliefs, my life, my faith, my whatever. So it depends upon what I need. And I'm kind of in the midst of a number of books, if that makes any sense. I like the Scrolls of Augmendino. When we did them, greatest salesman in the world. And I have to say that it was Glenn Lundy who got us on the journey with the Morning Five, which is a great little ebook. And then all of a sudden, and then our 67-day challenge. And both of them, the Scrolls and Morning Five, are about consistency and being repetitive until something becomes your new normal. So I would suggest that I need discipline when I focus on stuff like that, and I need focus, right? And then I want to show you some of the people in our industry, their own stories. Glenn Lundy, Ron Garbrick, Finding the Real You, Adam Marburger, You're the Effing Problem, Carrie Pash, Thank You Cancer. The list goes on and on. The Google Analytics by George Nenny, the Larry's book, who else has sent me books lately? But all of them, I get something out of their stories of overcoming and persistence and growth and everything else. But then some of the ones my SDL brothers gave me that I'm really excited about finishing are these two. The Obstacle is the Way and Tribe. And
The
those we
Obstacle is
both
the
got
Way
from
is
our
terrific.
SDL.
I've read that, Wendy. That book is
Have
terrific.
you? That looks really great because, and I think what I'm looking for here is it's all about better leadership, more servant leadership, more perspectives. And you guys know me, I'm all about considering everyone's perspectives and the magic of collaboration and everything else, which I think is amazing. And then there's one more for a personal healing. It's from a woman, Dr. Catherine Tsompis, back in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a Greek-American wife who was the victim of a terribly narcissistic relationship with her parents and her husband. And The Lion and the Narcissist helps me heal from within with my kind of PTSD I probably have because of narcissistic relationships, and recognizing that I wasn't the problem, and that recognizing those patterns in others. But my favorite one is this one, AI Accelerator by Mike Koenigs. The guys from Artificial Antics introduced me to it about 9 months ago. And I'm rereading it now after our conversation today on Clubhouse, because I want to see if all the predictions he made and all the ways in which he stretches our minds to the what could be, like basically way beyond your wildest dreams. Somebody's already getting a trademark on that right now, and they're ready to launch it. So it's just an exciting journey, the AI Accelerator. So I guess I like things about growth and discovery and healing.
So that reminds me of another book, The Future of Automotive Retail by Steve Greenfield.
There you go.
How many of his predictions came true that he said that would happen? read that and see how many actually
Which
came
brings
through.
to mind, would 1984 be a good read about now, or is it already past whatever he predicted? I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
I can't do that.
Yeah.
The problem is you read
Well, you're funny, Jeff.
1984 and you see what's going on with the scandal they just uncovered with FEMA, and you see some of these things, and it's just frightening with the amount of communication we have, better than ever, and yet we're less informed, so many of us, and just so ignorant to what's really going on that we can't smell past the BS and the double talk and the double speak. It's frightening, Wendy.
Yeah, get your hands on the book Future Shock by Alvin Toffler.
Oh my
Absolutely,
gosh.
another great book.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
What's scary, Tony, is how concepts that seemed like science fiction so quickly became non-science fiction. They became reality. Now with medicine, the fact that they can operate on you without intruding into your body, and some of the stem cell things and recovery of people that couldn't walk are amazing. But man, some of the dire predictions as far as how easy people could be manipulated, who the heck would have thought that would ever come to fruition?
It's
And yet,
It's Russell's turn.
Russell,
So
give us the famous quote.
I don't know which one, but I got to tell you, I really enjoyed everybody shared, and I wanted to specifically, I have such respect and admiration for all of you, but Larry, your comments this morning were greatly appreciated. And I really believe all leaders are readers, but not all readers are leaders, unfortunately. And if we were to go into another room and you just picked, 7 or 8 people at random, got on a Zoom call, most of them aren't reading. They're not doing anything, and they're as well as me. So this quote you probably all heard: "Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best." Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, powerful, powerful book. The Bible is all time whatever. I've read it almost 3 times, cover to cover. And it's a great reference point. And every time I just pop in and pick something, it's amazing how, because I've grown, it takes on a different context and meaning. I also, I put this up on my door, 14 years ago. You can't really see it. But this is in reference to Tony, what Tony was saying. But it's about positive affirmations. It's every one of those little things that I am this, I am that, instead of I am not, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or I don't count, or I don't make a difference, because that stuff is pollution. This small talk that's going on all day long, this chatter in our head. It's like you can slow it down, but it never stops. At least not for me. And about the time I met my mentor, I realized also that that chatter doesn't control me. I control it. So I'm behind watching all this. I can see this chatter going on and taking on a life of its own and going different directions, but I'm in control of where it goes. And some people don't realize that. They think they're victims of that. This book, a good friend of mine wrote, the very first dealership I saw in January 7th, 2020. Good friend of mine named Aaron Garcia. What Comes After Ordinary? It's about ordinary persistence leads to extraordinary change. Phenomenal. I'm halfway through. It's a short little read. It's the first book he ever wrote. When we were talking about Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, phenomenal. About halfway through with it, I bounced back and forth. This is one, no, nothing on it whatsoever. It's a trilogy. It's called Conversations with God, an Uncommon Dialogue. It's freaking phenomenal. It just helps put a lot of things in perspective. And your next 5 moves in business. It's really, really powerful. So I could go on and on and on. These are books that are all part of shaping my life. And on that 15-minute thing that we talked about, I remember I was chasing something that a lot of people said you can't, and until someone believed enough in me. And I went, I think it was a 1 foot by 2 foot, 1 foot by 3 foot, something like that. It was big. I went back in the day, it was FedEx Kinko's other than just FedEx, right? And I had this banner created with a particular goal. and I put it on my ceiling. And it was the last thing I looked at before I went to bed. It was the first thing I saw when I woke up to remind me, as Tony also said, I hit the ground running, and it's about little moves. And you probably all heard me say this. It's important for me. I'm very goal driven. That I'm moving towards a large dream, but I have to see myself making incremental steps towards that. And, attitude of gratitude for what I have in my life and the people I have in my life and the things that I have in my life is really important. Not what I don't have or not what I should have had. I mean, you can't have any of those things unless you're grateful for what you have right now. So, and you probably heard me say it. First thing I do is make my bed. That's a goal. That's how I start out my morning. And then I just go from there. Small little steps. There you go, right there. Got to get up and do something. And part of that equation is I have to interact with people that breathe into me, and that is all of you. You do. The historical fact, I got to tell you, Larry, the things that you regurgitate, it's just like it's phenomenal. Anyway, we all got things we could be doing. But we all enjoy every week. It's something different. And I learned something from each and every one of you. And it has a profound, tremendous impact on my life. And that's really important. And I just don't want to be around any other people other than that. And I can go on and on and on, but I want to tell you that human side of AI today was freaking phenomenal. And right behind that, to sit down and cut it up. Not really with Tim Hayden. I mean, and I'm meeting with Troy Scherer too. We tried to meet on the way back, but couldn't. But never met the guy, and we don't have time to go into it now. And it's not really clear in my head, but something really profound. This big picture about where AI is going, and how what I'm doing plays a tremendous part in that because of the sheer amount of data that I collect. But pretty soon, it doesn't matter what you do. There's going to be one centralized, people need to get off the silo stuff. It's coming whether you like it or not. And everything you touch, everything you look at, what times of the day you do this or that, it's going to be a delivery mechanism. And it's all about the guests it's about selling, but it's about, anyway, I can't even, it all hit me at the end of the conversation with some of the things Tim shared with me. And man, I got to tell you, you better get moving. If people don't see what's coming, I'm telling you, they're going to get gobbled up. They're going to go out of business. They're not going to. Most of them are going to get gobbled up. Now, what really hit me crystal clear. One, my wife and what she does. Okay. And she's online all the time, and the stuff that I see when she's scrolling that gets served up to her based upon her traits and her habits. And then I'm really understanding now why Group One chose our company as part of their master plan on that customer data profile stuff.
Because we're awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they're using it. They're using it for a delivery system and to acquire data that dealerships haven't had before, which is one of the things I talked about this morning on All Things Fixed Operations. Nobody has that stuff, and how connected that stuff is, from check engine lights going off to, I mean, it's just, y'all know what I'm talking about. It'd be different. I wouldn't even be talking about this in a room full of people that are like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. Well, I'll tell you what, if the branches are bare, au contraire, I don't go there. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's just, I have to really, these 6 inches right here, they'll make you or break you. That's why we all have to continue pulling each other up.
Hey, Russell, 2 things. One, Wendy, I desperately tried to get on. I was in a building, I had to meet with somebody today, and I just could not get a damn signal.
The replay's there. It's phenomenal, Larry.
Yeah,
I will
amazing.
watch it tonight. And as far as what you were talking about, Russell, you won't find 2 better guys than Tim Hayden and Troy Scherer. I talked to Tim a million times, and I had the pleasure of meeting him and Troy Shear and Joe Barris in Dallas when we were there. And man, we tore that restaurant up. We just had a ball. But they are quality guys.
Freaking brilliant, and they're really
And
protective.
humble.
Yes, they
And
are.
so
They're
humble.
really protective. So one of the reasons that when I was coming there, that Tim and also Troy, now I understand Troy's position and what he's doing and why Tim has him aboard. But Tim wanted to inquire a little bit more. He wasn't on, even though I invited him to the clubhouse this morning. But he's made comments and he's texted me, and we've responded back and forth with me. I've never pushed or anything. I think it was more of a vetting thing, but he wants to he wanted to understand a little bit more about our technology, and where our programmers come from, who comes up with the ideas. It's all just between a couple of people. That's it. We don't use people from India. Not that that's bad or good. We just don't. We have our own team, and we have this dream, and we put it, went from vapor to paper, and this Tim guy, Tim really tries to lay it out in layman's terms. And I was telling him today, I understand about a quarter of some of the things you're saying. The rest of it is just over the top, but I see the big picture now. I mean, the big, not the big picture of where this is going. And it's coming fast. And I'll tell you, people that are not on the human side of AI in that room, just listening to this kind of stuff, they're all different. And I get something out of every one of them. But this stuff that's happening is like, and we could think about all the naysayers, about the people using it for all the bad. That happens with everything. But if you look at it in the right frame of mind, I'm going to go back to this one thing I want to leave it. And Tim loved it. An opportunity is really not an opportunity when everybody thinks it is. They've already missed it. And if people aren't getting on board and tried to absorb, I can't really understand that. Well, I can't either. But I'm showing up and I'm reading and I'm listening and I'm learning as much as I possibly can. And 1 year from now, I'll know more than 95% of the planet. And so will all of you. And that's not very much.
The quote you're looking for, Mr. Hill, is not John Lennon. The only poet that's in his league is Bob Dylan. You better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, because the times, they are changing.
Yes, they are.
Hey, Fred, when you mentioned Louis Giglio, it brought to mind this book that I posted in the chat called How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. And I think, in a lot of the stuff we're in, we're always talking about, well, managers should do this and they should do this as managers, and we're talking about a lot more about managers than people in the trenches. But you know what? People in the trenches can still make a difference. And that's really what the book is. And it's a funny book, the author. And, he was an assistant pastor at a church, and he's like, I'm tasked with building all this stuff and doing all this stuff, and I'm not the head pastor. He said, I can still make a difference, even in my little bubble that I have every day. And it's a great read and a good audio book. So,
hey, Jeff, and it sounds like something every guy should read before they get married: How to Lead When You're Not in Charge.
Yeah.
That's why I smiled.
Good point.
That was really good. I have a little quote here. It says, the battlefield of success is littered with the carcasses of well-educated, well-dressed, good-looking, undisciplined people. Wait a
minute. You mean after all these books, we're back to discipline and consistency? Amazing.
I know. And
I'm going to end with this because I got a group to go to as well. But if Tony's still on and Fred, you know what? God doesn't use superstars, man. He uses clubs like me to make a difference. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, everybody, how quickly did this hour blow by? It's 8 o'clock. Appreciate every one of you. Rhonda and Peter will keep trying to come up with good, interesting topics. And very much looking forward to seeing you. And just want to tell you how much we appreciate you and love you. And thank you all for joining in with us.
Well, we appreciate the three of
For your
you.
input.
And
Hey,
with
one
that,
last
before we all
thing.
take off, tomorrow night I'm having my good friend here, Larry Feldman, Zach McVicker, and Joe Zorn join me tomorrow as we talk on the topic of so you want to be in the car business. Everything from recruitment to interviewing to accepting to training to onboarding. We're going to talk about it tomorrow night on the Automotive Innovators and Disruptors room.
I didn't hear
And-
psych evaluations in those.
Yeah,
in that list.
that would eliminate half of us. The second thing I want to announce is on Friday morning, I will be interviewing Blake Norberg from Select FI on the Automotive Partners Association,
APA, baby.
the
APA,
APA room, and lastly, on all things used cars, Larry Feldman is going to be the guest host for David Long. So it's going to be a big
Larry,
week.
you're just everywhere, man.
I know it's. I'm starting to be annoying, aren't I? You can all tell the truth.
No, you couldn't be annoying. You are.
I did notice you didn't speak a whole lot tonight. You're just saving it for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
You know, somebody wiser than me once said, "You got two ears and one mouth, and you need to use them proportionally." That's all I was doing tonight.
You
Oh,
are.
I
so
thought I was
loved.
supposed to use my mouth twice as much to
Yeah.
catch up with the years.
You are so loved and admired, Larry. It's not even funny.
So it's going to be a great finish to the week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow night and on Friday.
Okay.
Everybody,
you. Have a good night.
stay
Thank you,
healthy,
guys.
and thank you.
Peace
Good night,
out.
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Awesome.